Today's phone-in show is all about success and failure. Are Arsenal moving in the right direction? How does it compare to other clubs? And we're going to get your thoughts, of course, because this is, as I say, a phone-in show. Very much looking forward to this one. So let's dive right into it. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of what is the Arsenal phone-in show, the show in which we talk to fantastic people all around the world to get their views on the club on a variety of topics. Today's show, as the thumbnail and the title suggests, is about success and failure. Where do we see the club moving? Is it moving in a direction of success? And has it achieved that already in comparison to some other clubs? Of course, at the start of these, I do like to lay out the ground rules of these shows. This, of course, includes the fact that you need to be over the age of 18. And you need to have a webcam as well. This is a family-friendly show, so try to be on your best behavior as feasibly possible, of course, too. And I always like to say, if you can keep and be in a quiet area with good internet connection, that, of course, does help. This is probably going to be one of our shorter phone-in shows. I've got football at 6 o'clock, so I can't be around for too long. So it will be first come, first serve. I can't guarantee that everyone will get on, but if you phone in now, you've got a great chance of getting on the show. Let's get our first caller. We've already got people jumping in, which is great to see. Mark is up first. How you doing, Mark? You good, Joel?
Yeah, all good, Tom. Good to be here. So, yeah, really good. How are you?
Yeah, very good, mate. Very good. Now, I think we need to break a little bit of the fourth wall here. There's a reason why Mark is actually on the phone in first. And that's why myself and Mark had a couple of back and forths on social media the other day. And as you guys well know in the chat, I often like to challenge people to come on the show and kind of talk about a variety of views that differ to mine. And very rarely do people take the opportunity to do so. So first of all, fair play to you, Mark. You're here, which is obviously better than 99% of the other people that discussions with do. So to give a bit of context, of course, you responded to my tweet, which was about Manchester United winning the FA Cup and about kind of the view of whether or not they'd had a better season than Arsenal. I won't run or read through everyone our tweet conversations, but why don't you tell people kind of where you sit on this topic?
Yeah, so it was in response, obviously, to the article that you posted questioning whether Arsenal or Manchester United had a better season initially. And you said that on paper, you're not discrediting the FA Cup as a major trophy, which I completely agree with. I think the FA Cup is a trophy, and I think anyone who wins it should be massively proud of it. I know a lot of people, I think, over the last few years have really downplayed the importance of the FA Cup and the magnitude of it. I think as Arsenal fans, I think we can all say that some of our best memories have been FA Cup triumphs. So you were saying that you weren't discrediting at all, which I completely agree with. But you obviously prefaced that with saying that you still think as a campaign, Arsenal have shown better progress as a club, as opposed to Manchester United, who have seemingly gone backwards since last season. Obviously, third last season, going to eighth this season, which, again, I completely agree with. And I think that's obviously where the debate of how you measure a league campaign as opposed to a cup campaign. And I think at the end of the day, as a fan who's been going to Arsenal for over 20 years now, I always see it as my best memories as a fan has come from success, winning things. I always said that probably my favorite memory as an Arsenal fan to date has been the FA Cup in 2014, after those 9 years of having no trophies. To have that trophy and to end that drought before 10 years, it was massive. I think it was massive going forward as a club. So I don't personally see how we can sit there and say, as a fan base, we've done better than Manchester United on paper. Obviously, I think you have to take into context. Would I want to be a Manchester United fan, and would I rather be in Manchester United's place? No. Because I think that going forward, we're better set up to be successful and to win FA Cups. I think that's where my expectation of the manager comes from. I wouldn't rather be in Manchester United's place. But on Sunday, when they won the FA Cup, I would have preferred to be in their space.
Even if it meant finishing 8th?
Yeah, because I go back to the 1920 season, obviously COVID year, where we won the FA Cup.
I thought you said 1920. I was like, we're going back 100 years.
No, 1920 season when we won the FA Cup. Obviously,
I understand what you mean.
I see that as we ended the season with a trophy. I was really happy about that. And I think that really helped Arteta in terms of getting people. And I was really on board with Arteta initially. I thought through a lot of things that when fans were questioning him, for example, the Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang saga of banishing him from the squad, completely separating him after a sort of, I guess you could say, a dossier of incident between him and the manager. Everyone seemed to, I think, take side with Aubameyang. Everyone seemed to jump on Arteta's back. I was completely on Arteta's side. I think a manager deserves to be the manager and completely, have the last say in terms of the players he wants and how the team is managed as such. So for a lot of his initial few years at Arsenal, I was on board with a lot of decisions he was making, the people he was moving on, and the people he was bringing in. But obviously, I'm not going to sit here and say I agree with every single decision he's made, every single transfer he made. And more recently, my expectations of him has risen. And for me, it's for him to exceed those expectations. And I think he's even said that himself recently. He has to win.
Yeah, I think you raised some fair points. Absolutely. I do think to a degree you answered your own question in part when you spoke about kind of the idea that Manchester United, you wouldn't necessarily swap places with them in the grander context, but you would have done on the day because it would have meant winning a trophy. I think that in the cold hard light of that morning after the FA Cup win, when you're feeling a bit sober as a Man United fan after the jubilations of the day before, I think the reality would still come home to roost pretty hard in the reality that you're going to be playing Europa League football next season for sure because you finished 8th, but you dropped back from 3rd place the season prior. And if you look at kind of your rivals, I'd argue that Chelsea are going to be moving into an interesting position with Manchester United as the two teams trying to get back into the top 4, of course. You've got Newcastle, of course, who are still going to be looking to spend and compete. Aston Villa and Spurs are still going to be there, we imagine, going into next season. Whereas you look at Arsenal, the gap between Arsenal and Manchester City, of course, with Liverpool, of course, changing managers, it is a little bit of an unknown factor there. But certainly Arsenal and Manchester City, the gap between them from 4th and downwards is so significant at this moment in time. And that is all obviously to do with the progress and the process and the work that's been done, the recruitment, everything that's happened under Arteta has put us into the position where when we go into next season, there will not be a single supporter besides those that are probably doing it for the clout that would say that they would put Manchester United as a more likely side to win any trophy next season above Arsenal. And that's because Arsenal are there as a club that have produced consistent competitive levels for the last 2 seasons and are now looking like not only just the last 2 seasons, but obviously from 2 seasons ago to last season was an upward direction. They became more competitive. They went into the Champions League, reached the quarterfinals for the first time in 14 years, and were actually at one point, ironically, the bookies' favourites over the likes of Real Madrid. That in itself is an indication of kind of how far Arsenal are as a club. And so I know that you need the tangible grab hold of that piece of metal to say, look what we've won. But I think the argument that Man United had a better season, despite the fact that they went backwards, although they picked up that FA Cup, I just can't get on board with it in the context of seeing who's better placed to win the absolute biggest and most elite trophies out there.
I think maybe you look at it from a perspective of years to come, which I suppose
I look at it next year, not years, just next year.
No, that's what I mean. Next year, I suppose, next year, the year after that, the year after that, I would always, right now, I would see Arsenal as more of a favourite to win major honours. And I completely agree, but I also look at the present, and I think maybe an example to use in terms of a club who always thought, we're so close, we're the best footballing side in the league, we're so close, was Tottenham Hotspur, about 10 years ago now? Do you remember when they had so many years of being that close to winning the league? I think at one point in time, they were probably the best footballing side in the league. When you watched them play, you saw Dele Alli, Harry Kane, Heung-min Son, all those players were in the form of their life. And at the end of the day, their fans were happy at the time, but it resulted in nothing. And as Arsenal fans, obviously big rivals of Spurs, we constantly take the piss out of Spurs for winning nothing in that moment of, you could say, their best team ever in the Premier League for sure. And I look at it as an Arsenal fan now, and I look at it in the present, and I think I don't want us as a fan base to sit here and go, yeah, we're great, we're amazing, which I think we are a fantastic team. And I think the difference that you said between first, second, and I guess you could sort of include Liverpool in that this season, the drop off after that is pretty significant. And I don't want us as a fan base to have that expectation of, well, or have that sort of standard of, well, we're close and we're going to sit here and gloat about being close and being better than everyone else. But in 5-6 years' time, you know, when, for example, the likes of, I don't know, Leandro Trossard, you look at players who are sort of in that 25 to 28 range right now, when they're when they're past their prime, and we're having to rebuild again or sort of slowly add in new players, we're going to be sitting back and maybe we are going to drop off a little bit, and we're going to be thinking, oh my God, those years where we were second and sort of when we were primely placed to win those trophies, we didn't do it. And I think a lot of fans sit here now and say, oh my God, yeah, but next year. But there's a point in time where those players who are, you know, getting us that point now might be looking around in a few years. For example, I use William Saliba. I think Real Madrid are going to be looking in a few years' time when that contract's running down a little bit more. Obviously, I know he signed a new contract recently, but in a few years' time, they're going to be saying, well, you know, come over here. You know, we're the best team in the world consistently.
What I would say, Mark, is obviously you use Spurs. I don't think Spurs is necessarily the best example. I get where you were coming from in terms of, you know, at one point in time, they looked like they were playing the best football in the league. They had Harry Kane, they had Dele Alli, they had Heung-min Son, you know, the other players in the team that looked really good. But that entire process under Pochettino obviously came to nothing in terms of trophies. It was a very roller coaster period. There was up points, there was down points, there were periods in the Champions League, there were periods that there weren't as well. Whereas Arsenal started off obviously with a trophy, whereas that Pochettino side under Spurs never had a trophy at all. And it's only gone upwards from that point. Arsenal's only gone in one direction, whereas that Tottenham team were, as I say, very much up and down. So if you were to look at those two teams, with Arsenal, you know, Spurs reaching a Champions League final, Arsenal being in a position where they've competed for the title for the last 2 years with the expectation they will do so at an even more competitive rate next season as well. You look at Arsenal and think they're far more placed to win those trophies. I take the point about if we don't pick trophies up, if we don't start showing our best players that we're in a position where we are winning them, that they might want to leave. I think that's absolutely right. But I think that the difference is between where Arsenal are and a team like that is because the success isn't in 4, 5, 6 years. The success for Arsenal has to be in the next 1, maximum 2, and I think even 2 is a push. It has to come next year in some form of tangible trophy. I think, as I say before, we'll round off on this because there's a lot of callers waiting, by the way, just a heads up. But Arteta has earned the next contract, but there is no way that he gets the contract after that without landing a Premier League or a Champions League medal, because all that next contract does is if he doesn't land those trophies, all that we've learned is this is as far as Arteta can take us. But what we've learned so far is Arteta can get us to a place where we're competing with Man City for the title. We need to learn in the next year or two whether he can actually overtake them and beat them to those titles. But Mark, thank you so much for tuning in. As I say, massive respect to you because you're the first person, I think, that's taken the actual invite to come on the show after a disagreement. And I think it's shown that you can have differing points of view and talk about it respectfully. I think we managed that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, brilliant to come on.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate your time and speak to you soon. Massively appreciation to Mark. Please show him plenty of love in the chat box. Because as I say, we you guys obviously as well always want the different points of view to come on to have their discussions, and Mark's done that. So please do give him plenty of appreciation. The next calls as we round off the next 45 minutes of the show will not be that long. Just a heads up to those that are waiting. We are going to probably be doing 1-2 questions max because we've got to run through as many people as we can. First up on my list is Jaden. Jaden's up top. How you doing, Jaden? You good? You well?
Yeah, how you doing?
Very good. I can hear you crisply and clearly, which is nice as well. So good stuff there. I guess I've got to kind of come up now in the next few seconds as I ask you this. I'm vamping a bit here. What the question is, but how do you measure success for Arsenal? And I'm going to limit this to the next 12 months. What does success, and anything other than that being failure, of course, what is success for Arsenal in the next 12 months?
Yeah, so first off, hello from Seattle, Washington here in the States.
Very much indeed.
In terms of success, I think while winning trophies is great. Like everybody wants to win a trophy. I saw someone in the chat say it. Sometimes it's luck of the draw. Sometimes you miss a goal and someone gets a lucky header, and sometimes Coventry is beating Manchester City, obviously hypothetical, but sometimes that happens. And trophies are luck of the draw. It's kind of a an endurance competition of can you do it. It's more for a game, so I think winning trophies is great. But also, I would rather be in our position right now than rather in Man U's position, where they don't know what trophy is going to come next, or they don't know if this last trophy could be their last trophy for in the next 12 months. But for Arsenal for the next 12 months, obviously getting some big signings. I'm still on the I want Isak train. I'm still on that as much of a pipe dream as that is. I'm still on that pipe dream. But I think that, again, being for the next 12 months, being in this position rather than Man United is far better. I think that it's you have to look at the start of the season. You want to obviously be winning every trophy, any trophy you can win at the end of the season. But at the end of the season, you kind of go, okay, what's our goals for next season? Man United's goals for next season should be to place higher in the Premier League, I think. Arsenal's obviously should be to win the Premier League and to win and to go back-to-back in Champions League. And I think that's just a better position for us in the next 12 months.
Let me ask you this question, Jaden, just to round off the call. What if Arsenal don't win a trophy next year? What happens then?
Any trophy?
Any trophy at all. I'm saying they go, let's say they do exactly what we did this season, which was we compete for the title. We finish 2 to 3 points off Man City. We take it to the end, but we come up short. We go as far as we did in the Champions League. Let's say we repeat this season. Where would your mind be if we repeat this same season again?
I think I'm very much a trust the process person. I think as long as we are improving, because who knows, Manchester City could go invincible and get 1 bajillion points or something like that. But we would still have
15 points. Maybe they could manage potentially.
Exactly, and anything 90+ points, I think, is a win for me. As long as we are improving, I can wait on trophies because I know that improving later down the line, a couple seasons from now, we could be in a good position to possibly win trebles.
Fair enough, Jaden. I appreciate you standing by your point, and thank you for calling. It's the debut, right? I don't think I've seen you before on the show.
No, yeah, it's the debut.
First fantastic debut, mate. Fantastic stuff. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you guys.
Thank you, Jaden. Joining us from across the pond. Lovely stuff. Also, I believe joining us from across the pond is Wes. Wes joined just now. How you doing, mate? You good? You well?
I'm doing good, Tom. How are you, man?
Very good indeed. Very good indeed. So yeah, I think these questions are going to evolve as the show kind of goes on. I asked Jaden initially kind of like, what does success look like? I think that might be a bit too broad because, trophies, people say is success. And I guess that second question I asked of if next season Arsenal don't land a trophy, can that be justified?
Well, the easy answer is yes. You can always justify something, and it just depends on the circumstance.
Sure.
Now, I think you have to differentiate between goals and successes. So your goals should absolutely be win the Premier League. I would say at least get to the semis of the Champions League, compete for the FA Cup. You could put a lot of goals in there. Now, depending on what happens next year, injuries, transfers, what have you, you could always come up with an excuse of why it didn't happen. Like a previous caller said, I'm actually a good friend, trust the process, but also, trust the process, but also I'd like to see that consistency. You don't want this to be just a short flash in the pan. Arteta did great for a couple seasons, and then maybe he's off. I want to see the club come back to being a consistent powerhouse, good backroom staff, good organization. If you think about it, you're actually going back to that winger transition where you go through a couple of coaching changes, but also organizational changes that you've got to sort out to build that foundation. And I think Arsenal are obviously well on that path, and I want to see them maintain that and improve it. So God forbid if Arteta does move on and he gets a better call, then we have the next coach and he's all set up, and we're not having to go through this process again. And maintaining that consistency, I think, is a big thing for me.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think that I kind of semi-interrupted you through that, saying I hate that word excuses, because for me it's not. Sometimes there are, sure. Sometimes people can make excuses for poor performance. I think there are genuine reasons as to why Arsenal didn't win the league this season and why they trailed off at the end of last season. Last season in particular, I think we all point towards Saliba and Tomiyasu's injuries being the biggest factor why our title challenge tailed off. I think the reason why Arsenal didn't pick up a trophy this season, there's two reasons for that. One is, who we're up against, Manchester City. The other one being, of course, we dropped too many points in that festive period, and despite how monumental our form was in 2024, it ended up not being enough. I don't point to the Aston Villa home game because losing one game in entirety of one half of a season, I can come to terms with. I can't come to terms with dropping 4 points against Fulham. I can't come to terms with losing 2-0 at home to West Ham when you have 77 touches in the opposition box. These types of things are more of a struggle. But what I think that we have witnessed, obviously, is Arsenal be more competitive, look more likely to win the title. So at the moment, there's no justification to not continue on this pathway. What would you say to those that aren't convinced, though, that would say that next season, regardless of how it happens, if Arsenal don't win a league, we need to change the coach?
No, and here's the thing. You also have to go back to that argument of, well, you need to change the coach. We're like, okay, well, who's going to come in and do you better? Unless you can get Pep Guardiola, who's going to do you better? Now, that being said, I'd like to see Arteta beat Guardiola before he leaves. I mean, if the rumors are true, Guardiola's not going to be there forever. Now, everyone who says the Arteta's out if he doesn't win, that's just impulsive. That is, in the business world, if you had that mindset, I think you'd be looked at very critically. Like, well, if you don't do this, well, you got to go. Well, hang on a second. Is that really improving the program? Is that really improving the organization? If he loses it, like Emery did, like if he loses the locker room for whatever reason, then okay, yeah, you've got a crisis that you now have to adjust to. But in such a hyper competitive league with the Man Cities and the Liverpools and the Chelseas and the Uniteds, there's going to be up years and down years. But trashing Arteta just because you have this inflated, we got to win it or else, that completely takes everything else out of context, and it's just nonsensical. So no, that's immature and hyperbolic.
Fair enough. I do love that word, hyperbolic. Yeah. This is a very good one. Wes, thank you, mate, for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you, Wes. Lovely stuff. Ian is up next. How you doing, Ian? You good, Joel?
I'm doing all right. Mike coming in all right?
Yeah, you're doing fine, mate. My first question to you is how many shirts do you own?
Look, I quit drinking 6 years ago, so I had to put the money towards something. You know what I'm saying? So big shout out. I will say, big fan.
Oh yes, it's a nice shirt. It's good.
And even had to do a Xhaka. So they're doing great this year. But big shout out from the Virginia Beach Gooners. Long time listener, first time video. So
thanks for jumping on. So this question then of kind of success and failure and what it looks like for you next season, what does success look like for Arsenal, and what would constitute, I suppose the rung just beneath success?
See, I have two points that I kind of want to bring up. And it comes to the trophies. When we win the Premier League, and I say when we win the Premier League, okay. The banter is going to be, where's your European trophy? And then when we win the Champions League, just one? One?
That's football fans, though.
That's football fans. And would you rather have the tangible trophy, or would you rather see one of the most miraculous club from culture to roster transformations that I've personally seen as an adult? I've been following since '97. I was I started out as a Yank, as a Manchester United fan, because it's the only thing I had access to. And then, being a kid in a rural town named Ian, when Ian Wright came through, and Arsene Wenger looks exactly like my dad. So, when he bagged those 30 goals, and, I kind of had a paternal instinct to follow. And, FIFA demo, I chose Arsenal. And ever since then, progressively following and seeing where we went, seeing the highs and lows in 2015, 2016, and seeing where we are now as a club, not just from a player and numbers wise. I mean, how many records did we break this year? From a cultural aspect.
More Premier League wins than ever before for Arsenal, more Premier League goals for Arsenal than before, less goals conceded than last season, and the highest win percentage of any Arsenal side across all competitions in our club's entire history.
What more do you want? What more do you want from
trophies?
Progression? Yeah, and it's wild. And look, I was lucky enough. I came over, no tickets, just posted on Instagram, hey, I'm coming over for the Bournemouth match, the famous Reece Nelson goal. I got lucky enough to land some tickets in the lower North Bank, and I got to experience that. And if you guys follow me on Instagram at goongang.afc, it's pinned to my the reel. I got the goal. It's pinned to me, and I literally say, you can hear it in the reel, this is the greatest moment of my life.
Wow.
I say it. I like it was a lot. I am not. No wife or anything. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully my dad's not listening. But it's magic. It's been magic 2 seasons, and to think that we need a trophy to validate the progression that our club has seen on all levels, and just the growth in our local community. The Virginia Beach Gooners have grown immensely. We're having 120 people show up at 7 a.m. and the owners of the bar have 2 cooks online and 4 bartenders, you know.
I love that.
And the Spurs bar is down the street. The Spurs bar is down the street, and it's the gloomiest place you've ever seen in your life.
Give a shout out to the bar, mate. What is it?
It's Froggy's Shore Drive. Follow us. We're thinking about trying to do Virginia's for Gooners event this year with us. It was in Arlington last year. I know everybody knows about the Gooner Palooza in Chicago. There's great stuff going on all the time, everywhere. Shout out to the Denver Gooners, great hat. Indeed. Shout out to 14th Street Gooners, NYC, the homies. You know, it's a community that is surpassing all the other clubs stateside. And anyone stateside that's an Arsenal fan will tell you this. Like, and here's the second part about success, and this is what brings me to it. We are in a better mental state than any other club supporter that I know, hands down. City, I don't even care about them. They're any stateside City supporters. I mean, there's a few that are, I will give, you know, you've been around since before the Pep era, but most of them are New York Yankee type fans that just jump on there, you know? So Man United fans, yeah, you won a trophy, but you're depressed. And you can see it in the online comments. You can see it in the commentators. You can see it in the reaction videos. How many Manchester United compilation reaction videos? I mean, Mark Goldbridge, I'm praying for your mental health, brother. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if mental health and happiness and support of a club is at an all-time high, to me, that's success. So I'm trusting the process. I'm going to let them get the trophies, and then they can complain that we don't have enough trophies. So.
There you go. I expect that will be the case. I think you're spot on. You know, I think if we win the league, it'll be where's your Champions League. If we win the Champions League, it's you've only got one. Yeah, I think you're spot on there. But Ian, thank you for your time, mate, and pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you, brother. Be good.
Thank you. Big shout out to, of course, not just those in Virginia, but everywhere in the US. We've got so many supporters clubs out there. As I mentioned on that last call, I had the pleasure of going out to Chicago for the Gooner Palooza last year, and it was certainly top 5 experiences of my life. It was amazing, and I loved it every single second. Over the 90 minutes that we had in the 3-3 draw against Southampton, of course, that was pretty terrible. But other than that, it was great. Let's bring in Mark to the conversation. Mark, how you doing, my friend? I can see just your head.
Yeah, how are you, mate?
There you go. How you doing, mate? You good? You well?
I'm good. I've not seen you since a live podcast, but
indeed, you arrived all the way down from Scotland, right, for the August one last year. I think it was. Yeah.
Apologies for the hair. I've just been to the shops and it's absolutely peeing it down here. It's like badly raining.
Don't worry about it. No one's judging anything. But thank you for tuning in. So this question of success and failure, what's the minimum in terms of success next season? What does the minimum success look like to you?
I'm going to use Arteta's words of don't be satisfied. And I've always been satisfied all the way through the process to get to this point. I'm stepping up this year. I want 2 trophies, Tom. Well, either one of 2, the Premier League or Champions League.
I want 4, just for clarification.
Yeah, I won the 4 as well, Tom. But I specifically would like the 2. And if we don't get it, then I don't think we need to question Arteta, because he's shown me enough over the 4 years so far where we're at. However, I would start questioning people above Arteta. They do. So I would.
What is it that they aren't doing? But what is it that you would question of them if that was the case?
I want quality rather than quantity. And there's a list of 14 players that I think, personally, it's just me personally, I think we could put out and bring better quality in. And I just think our signings now have to go to the next level. If we're going to get there. Tom, I personally believe, see, when we win one Premier League or one Champions League, I think that will be enough for us to dominate for a period of time.
Agreed.
I think I honestly do believe that. We just need that one. So for me, I don't want to see signings like, I'm not picking on players, but I don't want to see players like Vieira coming in. I prefer and Isak coming through, I just want the next level. I want the next level.
Outside of Isak, who is that? And see, that sigh tells me how hard it is.
Yeah,
right?
It is hard. It is hard. I mean, for me, Tom, I want to hit the ground running, and Declan Rice showed me that this season that happened. So I want a Premier League proven player. I mean, there's a lot of players that you could bring in, and we could mention in the midfield. For me, a 6 is the most important position for me. I think Declan Rice is better at an 8. Okay. So a 6 for me is like really important. Maybe a 6-8. So a Bruno coming in, definitely that would work. That would work. But I would even have an Ollie Watkins coming in. But what I don't want is these project players, and I really don't. And I don't think Arteta needs that. I think he'd coach them, and I think he could push them forward and do really well.
When you say project, because I think people can differentiate between these. When you say project, do you mean a Kai Havertz type, whereas in like you're looking at a player that clearly had quality and you're then trying to build that back? Or do you mean like a Benjamin Sesko 20-year-old centre forward?
Yeah. That's exactly. It's not the Havertz. I mean, I was always behind on the live podcast. We spoke about this, and everybody agreed. Kai Havertz, I thought was a no-brainer. No reason I backed that. I actually thought he was a bit of a flop, if we're being honest, at Chelsea.
Yeah,
but I believed, and it was actually you that said it, Tom, and opened my eyes. But Arteta has never failed on a signing over £50 million. So I believed in that, and I believed in Kai Havertz from day one.
I was worried for a bit. I'll be honest. I was worried for a little bit. I thought that record was going to go down the pan, but yeah.
So I think I honestly believe that it's a different topic, but I think there's gems in Manchester United, and I think there's gems in Chelsea. I just think that these clubs are really badly structured. You could put an Mbappe in there, and he wouldn't turn up well, in my opinion. So you can maybe take a player or two from them and do it. But project, it's an 18, 19, 20-year-old striker has never played in the Premier League. It's going to take 2 years to settle. I mean, we've done this with Vieira, and let's be honest, it has been I would say, a bit of a failure. In my opinion.
At the moment, Vieira is a failure of a sign. I don't think you need to be coy in saying.
So just for me, it's just let's. There isn't many out there, but let's push a boat. Let's go and get an Isak. Let's get a brilliant number 6 to come in, and even. Onana, is it an Onana?
Onana,
I think he would be brilliant. I think he would be fantastic for Arsenal as well. But it's just proven to come in and just give Arteta the tools. Arteta's the right man for the job for me, Tom, 100%. And I'm honestly, these top managers are going to come down, and you're going to see the new generation, and the new generation is Mikel Arteta.
This is going to be a yes or no, and I'm going to restrict you to a yes or no. If Pep and Arteta swapped clubs, would Arteta win the league with City if Pep was at Arsenal?
Yes.
Interesting. Very interesting. Mark, thank you for your call, mate. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Lovely stuff. Mark, it was an absolute pleasure to meet at the live event back in August, as was it to meet plenty more of you as well. We did another one in February at the Old Queen's Head in Angel, and that was another brilliant event. I love that venue, and I'll probably will be planning another one in the not near future, because I don't really want to do more than one a year, because I think it sometimes can take the shine off of those events somewhat. So again, I will try and bring the weather this time, because it was absolutely pouring down when we did it. Let's go to Rob in New Zealand. How you doing, Rob? You good, Joel?
Yeah, not too bad. 4:30 in the morning at the moment, so unfortunately,
I've got
I've got a sick dog. Unfortunately, she's got.
Fair enough. I'm sending all the well wishes your way as well.
Means she's up and down during the night. So caught you. So
fair enough, my friends. Success and failure. What is the minimum amount of success that you could justify as success for next season?
I mean, I'm probably going to get absolutely ripped apart in the comments,
Don't worry about
that. but I would say solidifying, I mean, shooting for the stars getting the Premiership would be great. Getting the
course.
Champions League would be great. A cup would be great, but solidifying ourselves in the top, let's say 3, I think would still be a good thing. I know that everyone says, you know, we want to get more and more and more, and I'm, as a fan, of course, I want that, but I also think, you know, look at us 4 years ago and where we're at now. Even last season, end of last season, you know, the so-called you know, expert pundits are saying that Arsenal you know, could easily drop off, and we made second. So I think top 3.
Was that famous Man United fan video where they said our modal position is 8th, so they're going to put us 8th? How ironic that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so top 3 and challenging, I think would be brilliant. And, you know, go again into the Champions League. You know, I think a semi-final would be progression. And yeah, for me, it's that. I mean, these people that sort of say we need a cup, like that's just a loss, right? Like, you know, we lost 1 in the last 18 and still lost the Premier League. So, you know, we could lose in against the Liverpool or you know, a Chelsea or a Man City in any of the cups and still come out without a trophy. And so for these people that sort of say, like, we need to win something, well, sure, we'd all love that, but you know, the difference between winning something and losing something is literally just losing 1 game in a cup. Right?
That's exactly what it was. And in the league, 1 loss cost us.
Yeah,
the league.
That's
Convert
true.
One of those
That's
losses
true.
into a win, and it's convert the Man City away game into a win, and then the league is on.
And just, you know, briefly, I know you've
Yes,
only got an hour, and you know, there's, I'm sure, other
I've only got
callers.
20 minutes now. I'm really pushing it.
Right. I mean, I would say for these people that are saying, you know, United have had, I mean, I know and it's probably not Arsenal supporters, but there are definitely, I mean, I know Sophie's on, I think Sophie's on this,
Sophie's definitely one.
wavelength, you know, like a trophy is more important. Okay, well, how would you feel if we'd won in the last 4 seasons the Carabao Cup each season and ended up 8th?
Yeah.
Or even if we'd won, you know, a juxtaposition of those, FA Cup and Carabao Cup, and been 8th each season, like, how many people would be clamoring for Arteta's head because he's not delivering us, you know, a Premiership? It just doesn't make sense to me, the concept of a cup run being more successful if you look at the last 4 years of us going from, you know, 8th to 5th to 2nd to 2nd. It's that's definitely the progression that we want. And just lastly, listening to some of the other callers, it's great that there's so many internationals on the line. I wonder whether it'd be interesting to do a poll at some point. How many of the people that are clamoring for trophies are supporters that go regularly to the Emirates, and how many would be? I've got a feeling that it's the people that go to the grounds that want the trophies because they have that visceral experience of,
I think that,
you know, winning a cup, versus the internationals that are like, we like the good football that we watch.
I know a lot of international fans that are very on the trophy thing. So I think it's probably just who you're exposed to be honest, more than anything. I absolutely get that. So yeah, but I'm not sure. I think there's probably something in the whole idea that, you know, the fans that are committing the time and the money when they go to the games and, you know, that sort of things. Not that fans abroad don't commit time and money. They certainly do at mad o'clock in the morning, you know, to watch games. But I guess maybe that's where you could come up with some kind of argument, perhaps. But I think it probably is relatively evenly spread. But Rob, I'm conscious of the time, so I'm gonna hop on. But thank you for calling in, and all the best to your little one. I appreciate you jumping on.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. I've got 4 callers. I've put into the private chat who I can get on. I can see a couple of other people have jumped in late. I have had to close it. I can only get the next 4 who I've put the names of in the chat. I've promised them I'm going to get them on, and they're going to be quick. So apologies, we've had to close the call. So if your names are not Abdul, Daniel, Alala, and Shanel, sadly, I can't squeeze you on today's show. But we will be doing more phone-in shows throughout the summer. So apologies for that. Abdul's up next. How you doing, Abdul? You good? You well? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Abdul, I'm going to give you a second to sort out your audio, and I'll jump to another caller while you're sorting it out. Just go to the settings so it shows you if the microphone's being detected. Daniel, then we'll jump to. Daniel, how you doing, mate? You good, Joel?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. How are you?
Very good. Sounding crisp. Are you using a microphone or not?
No.
That's
No.
incredibly crystal clear. I'm very impressed. It's making me feel bad for spending 500 quid on a microphone, to be honest now. So very
No.
jealous of that.
I'm on my MacBook.
Oh, well, there you go. A good advertisement for MacBook there.
Yeah,
But no, it's all fine. It's fine. It sounds perfect. It's a fair play to him. What is the minimum for success next season?
Challenge again for the title. Obviously, I want to win the league, but if we do what we did this season, I don't have any problems. But my cutoff point, regardless of winning a trophy or not, is if we come 5th, that's too much regression for me to hold on to Arteta. Like I wouldn't renew his contract.
Yeah, I think it'll be renewed this summer. Just a heads up on that. It'll be renewed this summer before the season even starts.
Right. Well, but then I would let him go. Then,
you'd sack him at the end of next season if he didn't win anything.
It's not the not winning.
Sure.
But if we finish outside the top 4, then
outside the top 4. Sorry, I didn't. Yeah, a significant regression is what you're saying.
Yeah. Exactly this. If we finish outside the top 4, it
would be hard to vindicate keeping him. It would. I know a lot of the fans, a lot of the listeners in the chat box will be like, "No, you can't get rid of him for that." But I don't. It's something incredible would have had to have happened to justify not finishing in the top 4.
Yeah, and that's pretty much where I'm at. If we finish outside the top 4, regardless of winning a trophy, I want the league.
Yeah, of course. So do I. What do you think the chances of us finishing outside the top 4 are as a percentage? If I was to ask you quickly,
I'd say slim. But if
so
it does happen, then for whatever reason, we can't accept that.
No, I agree. Because finishing outside the top 4 would mean 2 of Man United, Chelsea, Spurs, Villa, and Newcastle, you'd think, would have had to finish above us. At least 2 of those teams.
Yes. Yeah. And when Man U fans are saying "Oh, we've had a better season. We've had a better season." You came behind the joke team of the season, which is Chelsea.
Yeah.
And
Newcastle, who went back 3 places.
Yeah. And you're on the you could be sacking your coach. And you cannot, who did win them a trophy, that's insane to me to say that you've had a better season than us. No, not for me. I'd rather be where we're at. But I am with you. We do need to win either a Premier League or Champions League to justify keeping Arteta as our
manager. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, absolutely.
I can't justify him being our head coach if we come outside the top 4. I can't justify it.
Just very, very quickly, I'm going to make this as kind of a 1 to 3 word answer.
Yeah.
Because obviously, Archie, the minimum for success next season. I know that you're saying that if he was to finish outside the top 4, he had to go. But what would be the minimum you would call success?
challenging for the title and maybe getting to the semi-finals of the Champions League.
Okay, so effectively just a little bit further in the Champions League and the same season we had this season would still be enough going forwards. Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Daniel, thank you, mate, for your time. Appreciate it. Spoke fantastically.
Cheers. Thank you, guys.
Thank you to you. Right, let's see if Abdul's fixed it. Have you fixed it?
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. What did you do wrong? Did you not click that little button? Or
no clue. I unmuted myself and it wasn't working.
No worries, man. I can hear you clear
All
and crisp now. Tell me, what is the minimum you would describe as success for next season?
Yeah, so success next season is obviously staying within top 4. I don't know whether it's first. I mean, fourth is a little bit questionable, but as long as you say within the top 4, that's all that matters. I think it's just that Arteta needs more Champions League experience. I think the format changing next year is what I've been told.
Champions League changes next season. We'll have 2 more games and we'll play 2 teams from each pot rather than none from the usual pot.
Maybe you can do like a video content about how the changes will be, and that we're aware, because I read it and I still don't get it. But
UEFA have got a video if you go and watch it on their web. They have got an explainer. So
okay,
go on.
Sweet. Yeah, okay. So the Champions League for me is what matters the most. Is that as long as we can compete, continue competing at the Champions League, just because that will give all your young players more and more experience when you're playing against the best in Europe. From my point of view, I also feel like the Champions League is more difficult to win than the Premier League, and people might question that. No, the Premier League is a lot harder. Now, for me, Man City has been winning the Premier League for the past I don't know how many years, but they've only won the Champions League once under Pep, right? And everything had to go right their way that year for them to actually win it. So from my point of view, you're playing the best teams in Europe, and every time they're putting their best lineup every single time. So just in theory, in my point, it's just a much more difficult trophy to win. While in the Premier League, obviously, if you drop 1 or 2 matches in the season, Man City has always started slow in the Premier League, and then towards the second half of it, they just don't drop any games and don't drop any points, and then they end up winning the league, while the team that was competing with them starts out strong, but then they fall short at the end, right? Liverpool was a big example of that multiple seasons. It's only that one season where they kept going through the full year and end up winning the Premier League. Man City, for me, the team built to win the Premier League. They just have the players to do it, right? It's like the bench players. Even if a player gets injured, it's not a problem, right? They lose Kevin De Bruyne. That's okay. We have another player who will go in and they'll step up and they'll still be performing at the highest level, still winning games, still scoring these big goal margins. They almost closed the goal difference between us and them towards the end as well, right? So I was like, there's no way they'll catch up to us, and it was I think 2 goal difference at the end. They almost did.
Yeah. Thankfully, if they only I say thankfully it didn't matter in the end, but
it didn't matter at the end.
Yeah, of course. So,
But so at the end of the day, it's the season itself was a success, because for me, Arteta met expectations, did not exceed expectations. For me, meeting expectations was actually showing us that Arsenal is one of the best teams right now, right? And for me, he did show that, right? Because we were scoring goals with big margins. We were destroying teams. We were on an insane run. It was fantastic. Now, the minimum for me next year, sometimes things don't go your way, but as long as you keep maintaining that top 4, right, it's okay. But your next year's season the goal should be to win the league, minimum.
Yeah, I think that is the goal. Yeah, right. I don't think anyone at Arsenal would tell you exactly it's not the goal. Yeah.
And then Arteta needs to tackle this this market to bring the players that he needs to achieve that goal, right? So you had a great season. You did fantastic in the transfer window over the summer last year. This year, we want the same thing. Bring in the players, bring in the quality. You need to bring in quality. So no more Kai Havertz. I still think his slow start in the season.
What do you mean? It's been great. It's great success.
Towards the end. I mean, it's the
more than towards the end. 2/3 of the season, he's been great.
The early on in the season, it was rough. It was very rough.
Yeah, it was rough. Without question.
It was rough, right? Yeah. And we're not in a position where we need to do that testing anymore, or get that player where we want to give their confidence back, right? So I guess what I think and what I believe should be the point forward is you bring the player that will instantly put you one step up, right? That's the type of players that you need right now, that one step up player, right? So having Jesus on the bench to fill in for any of the front three is a fantastic rotation to have. It's perfect, right? And that's what we're looking for. That's what we need. You also need another midfielder. If Part is leaving, that's another gap that we need to fill in the team, right? So you need that person who will play alongside Declan Rice to just have Declan Rice be free to go forward, right? And Thomas Partey offers that for Declan Rice. So that's what I feel. So the two main points for me is we need the midfielder to replace Partey if Partey does end up leaving. And then we definitely need the striker, 100%.
Yeah.
Definitely need a striker.
I think that the midfield for me is the priority. Striker is something I want to see an improvement in the options that we've got.
Exactly.
And, you know, I don't necessarily think that means that you can bring any sacking because I think it's unrealistic. But I think that you can definitely improve on the options that we have. Abdul, thank you for your time, mate. Always a pleasure.
All right.
Thank you. I'm glad we sorted out the audio issues. It's all good, mate. It's all good. Two more to go. We've got Alala up next, and then Shanel's going to finish off the stream. Alala, how you doing, mate? You good, Joel?
I'm doing good, Tom. How you doing?
Very good indeed. Very good. Just a heads up, these are going to be really fast because I'm running out of time.
Yeah,
what is your minimum view of success for next season?
Before I squeeze that in, let me just say thank you for the overall season and for the continuing good job.
Thank you for listening.
There's nothing I will listen to on a daily basis to start my day except maybe I click on Tom. Thank you for all the information, all the straightforwardness, and to the point. But for next season, I will consider, stay in the top two, try to win a trophy, at least a trophy, and stay in the top two. That would be a success for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is for most people, I think would be, the minimum expectation is to not drop, to keep pushing forwards. You got to be progressing. If you're not progressing, you're only regressing, so I don't think stagnation necessarily is going to be enough for a lot of people. What do you make of those that would say that if we don't win a trophy next season, they would get rid of him?
No, for me, we won't get rid of him. It's a process. And moreover, if you look at the league nowadays compared to 4 or 5 years back, the teams that are in there, they are actually spending. Liverpool is spending, Man City is spending, Chelsea is spending, and Man U is spending, Tottenham to Newcastle. So the competition right now is very, very hard to come financially. And Arsenal right now, we done great transfer business. Last season we spent a little over 200 million.
Yeah, more than that.
Which is better compared to years back Arsenal with Winter time and maybe even Emery. So the competition is very hard financially. So if the team continues to play at the level we did this going season and stay in that top two, for me, we keep at that. The trophy going to count. Like I said, the minimum should be able to win something to back up all the process you have put in for the part and try to get a core value of player that you can keep someone there just for the depth and breaking some player. Because at least for me, he have depended on the player he has. And someone that did not serve him well. There was some player that they brought in at a certain time, they did not perform the way he expected. Then he tweeted something in the team. But at the end of the day, bringing a player like the last call, bringing a player that you really want, and will let go to the head and say, hey, let us spend it. We're gonna get this or this person. This is what I need, and let's give it a go. Keep trying until we can get something. For me, I think they should give you a minimum of maybe another 3 more years and see.
3 years. I think 3 years would be fine.
Put him, and we'll see how best for me. But we'll have to win something next season and stay in that top two. Put City or whoever team there will stay in that top two. Keep our rank. For me, it'll be a success for me next season.
Mate, I appreciate your time and I appreciate your input. Thank you for tuning in and calling in.
Thank you, Tom. Okay.
Thank you. Just before we go to our last caller, we couldn't get Jay on the show, sadly, but Jay did leave us a bit of a monologue, which I'll read out for you quickly. Jay says it's impressive his first season he has coached. He should be given 1 more year. This time he has no excuses, though he has enough budget to buy the best players that he can find. He has slightly improved from more wins to slightly more wins, including clean sheets, making sure that he subs players earlier in the second half and not in the last 70 to 90 minutes of games. That would be unnecessary pressure. What he needs to do on next year is 1, obviously bring in major trophies. 2, we'd be better on comeback tactics. tactics to win games or draw and earn points in the Premier League if they score first against us. It's actually a really good point because we didn't do that too often last season. 3, very least, getting to the semi-finals and the finals of some cup competitions. If he doesn't win at the end of the day, he needs to win a trophy, though, to let us know that he is serious. I think we know he's serious. He should win at least one. We'll even be happier if he wins more. No Community Shield, please. I mean, we're not in the Community Shield this season, so you don't have to worry about that, Jay. It would help his CV and the team. My question to you is that when Arteta was 8th in 2020 but won an FA Cup, do you think it was a great season for him and why? And the answer to that in very short answers is yes, because it was his first season. He was only at the club for 6 months. He'd taken on a bit of a mess that Unai Emery had left behind, and to galvanise that group and take it to a trophy provided us a great bedrock for the success that hopefully is still yet to come at the club. But thank you, Jay, for your comments. I'm sorry that we couldn't squeeze a call in with you. Last 3 minutes of the show before I've got to run off to football is going to be Shanel, who joins us. How you doing, my friend? You good, Joel?
Not bad, Tom. Not bad. Obviously, we didn't win anything in the season, and you've covered everything. The callers have spoken wonderfully about a myriad of topics, from what we should have done, what we could have done, and how we can improve, how we can move forward. And when I think about this season, I would say that this season was progress. I wouldn't say it was success because we didn't have any silverware at the end of it. But we have the building blocks for 5, 6, maybe 7 years of dominance or being at the top in English football, in European football as well. And I think a lot of positive signs, a lot of positive things have been put into place this season that will only work and help us much better. You know, you look at the goals Kai Havertz scored at the end of the season. I think his form will continue if he's playing up front. You look at how Martin Odegaard has been playing a deeper role, David Raya being brought in. Our dependence on Partey and Jesus not being there this season. Arteta has very smartly and coyly devised a plan to buy 2 players that can fill those gaps. And I think in the transfer market, we're so opportunistic and we're so properly planning everything that we understand what we need more than, what we used to say before that, we want that shiny toy, let's say Ozil or Sanchez, or if Pepe was available, and we've moved away from that, and we know exactly what we need right now. So I want to talk about looking forward, what would constitute as success?
30 seconds, tell me what success is.
Yeah, and I think personally, if you ask me, obviously winning trophies is it, but taking this process to the next level, working on the attacking dynamics, finding that proper left center mid, that perhaps Xhaka upgrade, maybe giving Odegaard some minutes there, finding a way to unlock Martinelli, get the best out of him. We've got plenty of attackers that can do a lot more. Maybe get 30 goals and assists out of Saka or more next season, and he does it consistently. It's just a shame we as fans probably don't mention it enough.
His numbers are ridiculous this season. We didn't give enough credit.
Absolutely. And you saw the who scored team of the season in all of European football, and Saka's the only player from Arsenal that made the list. So definitely find the right players, find the right system, get the best out of the attack. The defensive dynamics are great. 3 signings, all I want. And we're not probably going to get any one of them, but that should be at the top of our list. For attack, Rafael Leao. In midfield, Frankie de Jong. And in defense, Ousmane Diomande. Probably we'll only get Diomande or neither of them.
Well, none of them.
Absolutely. Because we're linked with Hato and we're linked with Guimaraes or Onana in that left center mid spot. And in attack, where we're linked with the Neto and probably Sesko. I think that's going to happen. I think Sesko's going to happen. Onana probably, and Hato.
Lovely stuff. Shanel, thank you for your time. And I love that you did a whole kind of look forwards. I thought it was a really nice way of ending the show. So thank you.
Because we spoke about everything else.
Indeed. We covered everything.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Lovely stuff. Thank you, mate. Speak to you soon.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. And thank you to all our callers. We did it. 6 o'clock, although it's 1 minute past, so I'm going to be late if I don't wrap this up very quickly. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening. Really appreciate your time, as always. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning, bright and early, 8 a.m. to round up all of today's stories, surrounding Arsenal. I've just broken some news regarding Arsenal's coaching staff on Football.London. If you want to head over to there and read that story, I did tweet it out from my personal account at Tom Canton Media. So head over there, give that a read, give it a retweet. I really would appreciate it. Thank you to all of you that have tuned in. I'll be back with you tomorrow, as I say. Drop a like, subscribe, all that lovely YouTube stuff. And thank you once again to my fantastic group of international and local callers that always make this show as special as it is. Speak to you soon. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.